What's going on, team? Just thought I'd give you a really quick breakdown of these EURGBP trades, just because it's kind of the trade of the week, really, or a couple of trades, really. That one, the middle one in particular. I'll kind of talk you down through my top-down analysis, and hopefully that will really help. I'm out and about tonight, as you guys know. Some of you may know, so I thought rather than doing a live session, I'll give you a breakdown instead. So let's go proper from top down. So our daily momentum, as you can see, is shifting bearish, quite clearly shifting bearish. We've got a weekly range here, high, weekly range here, and we have, if we look at, I don't normally draw these on, but if we look at the weekly range, we've come back into premium pricing, which is the top 50%, and now we're in a position where, we could start potentially seeing shorts to come back into the marketplace. Jumping down to the daily time frame, if we look at our daily ranges, so just always draw the most obvious ones on like this, okay? This then gives us our daily range. As you can see, we've broken one and then we've taken a second one, but as you can see from this structure, there's no confirmed structure, so you haven't got sort of this pullback going on, because if we had that, then this would be our first break, and then this, of course, would be our true break, okay? So we haven't actually got that on the daily, which is why my bias on the daily is still ultimately bearish. So I'm looking for the bears to come back in line with the higher time frame, narrative ultimately. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, we're obviously creating lots of bullish structure, bullish structure, bullish structure, bullish structure. And then if you jump down to the hourly, this is when we start to get the shift. So we can acknowledge the fact that we've got trendline liquidity building up here, okay, which indicates to us if we do start moving down properly, we are in a position where we could get some really nice profits off, like down to this level will be a really good area. And the first trade, I do believe I made a bit of a mistake on, and I'll explain to you why. Price was making higher highs and higher lows, okay? So we have that bullish momentum being created, right? Everyone's understanding of that. That first break, therefore, indicated to us that the bears were not yet in control, okay? We still had lots of bullish orders in the marketplace, and this was just a liquidity pullback, a liquidity grab, and should have been seen as such. And ultimately what we had in here is we had a trap, okay? And you can see that trap quite clearly. If I jump down to the 30-minute, you can see it quite clearly. Now, because of the positioning, because of the external liquidity, because of the extra liquidity that was taken, I incorrectly assessed this as a short setup, and I took the position. Now, it could have played out. Yes, of course, it could have played out, but it didn't play out. And whenever I do fail a trade, I'm always kind of looking at it and trying to understand from a wider perspective why ultimately that trade failed. And I believe the trade failed because the shift hadn't yet occurred. We hadn't yet been in a position where we were, shifting from buyers into sellers. Now, very different to this high here, we started then making lower lows, as you can see. So we had that first break, and then we failed to make a new high, okay? We then had some more corrective price action. We then failed to make another new high, so we had another last-ditch attempt at creating a new high, as you can see, and then we had another failure. So this first trade, the reason why I took it, I'll show you on the lower time frame, the reason why I took it is we took out liquidity, we had a first break, and I got into the position too soon. I had a nice MSU setup, came down, we tagged like 0.8, something like that, but then ultimately the trade, as you can see, failed. The second trade, however, you can see it's almost exact same setup. Look, MSU entry, MSU entry. The reason why this trade played out is because this high failed to make a new high, whereas this high took out the highs here to the left. Okay, so we're still grabbing liquidity at some point. We then fail to make a new high, and then we have our first break. With this one, okay, we created a new high compared to the one to the left. So we created a new high, then we had a break. With this one, we failed to make a new high, then we had a break. So strength still with the buyers on this setup, strength with the sellers or the buyers losing strength, which is what's meant that this trade was then more reliable. In hindsight, this would have been a trade that I should have waited, held fire, and ultimately not gotten into. Second trade was nice and simple. So we had London session, came up, grabbed the Asia liquidity, as you can see from here, failed to make a new high, broke down, gave us a shift on the lower time frame, and an external shift here. So you had your IFB there. So if we're looking at this kind of internal structure, you've got IFB here, and then you've got, so looking at, if I jump to the 15, just so you can see it clearer. Okay, that last push up is our 15-minute range here to here, as you can see. Go back down. It should help some of you that are struggling with IFBs and ITBs. Okay, so that first shift there is IFB. Second shift there would therefore be your ITB. Okay, so that's your internal shift. I waited for the external shift, so the first break here, and then we had a couple of nice entries, to be fair. We had an entry in the dead zone. I didn't take that entry. We had an entry in the dead zone there. We then broke down, as you can see. Then we had a sweep, and then we had another further breakdown. So that was where I got in on that manipulation. Okay, beautiful little setup, nice and clean. That was really, I was hoping that would hold that a little bit longer. We took out first profits at the SMT, which was 3.3, and then final profits came down here. It was like 5 point at that external Asia low. That was like 5.3. And today was just nice and simple. So it's just a continuation play. So look, this last move here was just the buyer's last ditch attempt to grab some liquidity. Think about it institutionally. You've got now very clear signals that sellers are getting stronger, buyers are getting weaker. What happens? Everyone starts selling. We start selling. My break-even point was there, as you can see. We got taken out. People's stop losses would have been here. You would have stop losses here as well, which you didn't quite get, but stop losses certainly here. They would have been taken out by that move. Institutions have caused a massive surge in price all the way up to take out that liquidity. That liquidity then gets taken, and then they immediately reverse. That is the most clear and obvious institutional signal I've seen here all week. Absolutely beautiful. Taking that high up there. Has that not changed? Liquidity taken that high up there. Immediate rejection, loads of imbalance, and the entry was just really easy, guys. It was just a nice 5-minute MSU engulfing. And I took most of my profit off when we came down to that TP1. Still got about 20% into this trade, which I will hold through the weekend and see if we can gather some lower positions. Hopefully we might even get to the bottom of that trap potentially today. But I wasn't, I'm not going to be holding it too long because I know liquidity is reducing, volumes reducing, because we're coming up to end of the day, end of the week, and this is where we can expect reversals from. So most of my positions out of that. And yeah, look, it's a real good example of where you can trade too early and come off the wrong side, but actually waiting for those confirmations can get you into much better trades. And then when you see this shift happening, you can then start, when you've got a really clear understanding of where the market is moving from and to, it can really help you navigate where the next setups are coming from. This setup was really, really clear, really, really obvious. Took that trade and it absolutely smashed it to pieces. So yeah, that was EURGBP this week. Those are my kind of trades of the week. This especially was my trade of the week. Hopefully we can gather some more prices down here and potentially come down further over the next day or so and potentially grab a nice 8R position out all in all. Cheers guys, catch you in the next video.